If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, you should, because that's where I take polls asking people what I should do videos on next. In my last poll, I got this question, and honestly, I feel like it's made for me. What do you do when your ex starts sleeping with people you once considered friends? There's a lot to unpack here, but let's start with the ex. I always say you see a person's true colors during a breakup. If you ever had any doubts about who that person actually was and how they operate within the world, just watch them after a breakup and you will find out very, very quickly. Story time. My ex and I broke up in 2020 after about 3 years of dating. Full disclosure, that relationship was a full chaos loop. Quintessential codependent relationship. He needed someone to rescue him, and I needed to be needed. His behavior served to fully activate my trauma, specifically my daddy issues, which is a whole other story, and we'll get into that sometime. My response to trauma was always needing to prove that I was worthy of being chosen. So when my partner would leave, whether physically or mentally, I would spiral, and then when he would return, I would feel as though I was being chosen. Not healthy. I've always been a very driven person. For the 3 years, more or less, that we were together, my professional life was essentially on hold. The reason for this was I allowed him to take up all of my emotional energy. He was constantly talking to other women, putting himself in situations that just made no sense to me. We're all demonstrating what I considered at best questionable behavior and at worst intentionally hurtful behavior. My life became figuring out his emotional landmines so that he wouldn't abandon me. In late 2019, just a couple days before Christmas, he cheated on me. He, the girl, and his friends all lied to me about it for 6 months. When he finally did admit it, the reason he gave me was that I had made him mad. I stayed for longer than I should have. I loved him and I really wanted to make it work. And with the world shutting down in 2020, it definitely created a false sense of security for me, thinking that his behavior had changed. But when the world started opening up again, I realized that nothing had changed. And I finally decided that I was truly done. Everything in my life started clicking again, and he began to spiral. But I was no longer rescuing him in his spiraling. So his attempts to gain my attention through negative behavior became much, much greater. And this is what I want you to know. When you break up with an addict, a narcissist, or somebody that has narcissistic tendencies, just buckle up because it will get much, much worse. Removing yourself from their life is essentially like removing a drug. When they begin to realize that they no longer are getting the reaction that they used to, they will up the ante. While we were dating, a big portion of our arguments were about, we've been dating for 3 years, I think we should talk about the future, like, do we want to have kids together? If not, it may not make sense for us to continue to be together. I was always gaslit in these conversations, told that I was selfish, that I was pressuring him, that these things should just happen naturally and you shouldn't have to plan them. After we broke up, he began to publicly date multiple women with multiple children. He told me about that, and I told him that I was happy for him. He began to sleep with women that I once considered friends. If you're going through a situation where an ex is now sleeping with people that you once considered friends, just know that I understand it is very hurtful, but also you need to understand that that is the intention. They are trying to hurt you. Any attempt you make to try to convince them that this isn't okay, it's all going to be wasted energy because they know exactly what they're doing. They are trying to hurt you. They are trying to ensure that the trauma bond is still securely attached. So we've covered the ex. Now on to the people that you once thought were friends. In my experience, people that sleep with their friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, or exes, they were frenemies from the get, and they always were low-key jealous of you. They want to be you, and they cannot be you. So they take the next best thing, which is identifying themselves with something that you were once closely identified with, i.e. your ex. Just know it's an extremely low vibe attempt at a power move. Don't sink to their level. Honestly, for me, that sounds like one of the most miserable hookups that I could imagine. They are both trying to access something that they cannot have through each other. In my case, my ex can no longer have me, so he's someone that reminds him of me. And the girls I once considered friends cannot be me, so they're someone who loves me. Don't let them steal your light. Let them have their sad attempt at connection and continue to vibe high.